Hare Krishna. Today, Mangla, Nidhi, and I are going to be presenting on the bhajan Keshava Keshava Kukiye. Before we start, I would like to thank Kala Chakra Prabhuji, Sudarshana Mataji, Vaijayanti Mataji, and Abarkanya Mataji for giving us this opportunity and this platform on which we are not only able to provide our insight, but also learn and explore the wide expanse of knowledge that the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita provides, and eventually taking a step closer to loving Krishna. Now, before we start with the bhajan, I'd like to say a few words on the author of this bhajan, which is none other than His Holiness Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. Now, Maharaj was born in Mumbai in 1990 on the auspicious day of the Tatriya Purnima in the month of Margashira. He appeared in an eighth-generation Vaishnava family. At a very early age, he began studying the holy scriptures of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. He is highly educated, having obtained a master's degree in both Sanskrit and English, and is equally conversant in Marathi, Gujarati, Hindi, and Urdu. His burning desire to realize Krishna was finally answered when he met Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. His Holiness Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj is a brilliantly divine personality, and such kind of personalities are rarely seen on the stage of human life. Anybody who has come in touch with Maharaj experienced that he is not just a spiritual master, but a sweet, loving father who, by his loving dealings with everyone, made them experience the love of Krishna. Maharaj spoke and lived the essence of the scriptures and made everyone understand that the scriptures are not in the cloud or in the sky, but very much on the ground, intimately related to our day to day lives. That way, he was a practical Mahabhagavata and a down to earth Paramahamsa. The humility which Maharaja exhibited is a conclusive proof of his greatness. Now I'll move on to the bhajan, but before we start with singing the bhajan, I'd like to give an introduction to what the bhajan expresses. The bhajan Keshava Keshava Kuke is a very simple, sweet, and straightforward bhajan written by Maharaj. What we can learn from this bhajan can be summarized in three simple points quoted by Maharaj. Firstly, always you should speak out loudly, Keshava, Keshava, Keshava. It is one of Krishna's names. Keshava, as we all know, is one of the many names of Lord Krishna. This point illustrates the need for us to wholeheartedly chant the name of the Lord with complete devotion. And although in this bhajan, the sweet name Keshava has been used, any of the many names of Lord Krishna can be chanted. Secondly, if you continuously chant Krishna's names, sometimes your vibration of the names will definitely fall on his ears. Throughout this entire session, we will speak on different instances where by just chanting the name of Lord Krishna, he immediately attends to the needs of his devotees. By chanting his name repeatedly, we create a vibration which rings through the cosmic universe, and this attracts the attention of the Supreme Lord, who without any hesitation provides his protection. And thirdly, don't waste your breath in unnecessary speaking. That is the instruction. This quote speaks for itself. The instruction is simple and requires no effort. Just chant the name of the Lord. Now, with that said, I will pass it on to Mangla, who will sing this beautiful bhajan for us. Mangla.
Hare Krishna, it's not audible.
Hare Krishna, Mangla, are you there?
She seems to be on unmuted, but we are not able to hear her. I think she has left. She will rejoin.
She'll rejoin.
Hello? Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Mangla.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes, Mangla, you're audible now.
Okay. So I'll start with the bhajan again.
Yes.
Keshava Keshava Kukiye Keshava Keshava Kukiye Na Kukiye Asar रात दिवस के कूकते कभी तो सुने पुकार राम नाम रटते रहो राम नाम रटते रहो कृष्ण नाम रटते रहो जब लग घट में प्राण कपहुन तो दीन दयाल के भनक परे की कान आज कहे मैं काला भजू काल कहे फिर काल आज काल के करत ही जासी अवसर चाल केशव केशव कूकिए न कूकिए असार रात दिवस के कूकते कभी तो सुने पुकार काल भजनता आज भजनता अभा दो फल में पड़े होएगी फिर बजेगा कब केशव केशव कूकिए न कूकिए असार रात दिवस के कूकते कभी तो सुने पुकार हरे कृष्णा
Thank you, Mangla, for that wonderful rendition of the bhajan. Now, in this age of Kali, it is unavoidable to live a life with no sin. The Kali Yuga is a corrupt and impure age where misfortune and suffering befalls all. But there is still hope. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam verse 12.3.51, Kalir doshan de rajan asti ko mahan gunaha कीर्तनाद एव कृष्णस्य मुक्तसङ्गः param व्रजेत्. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to transcendental kingdom. In this verse, Sukadeva Goswami comfortingly advises Maharaja Parikshit that although the Kali Yuga is filled with hardship and misery, the Lord still shines his light on us by giving us a golden opportunity to escape this world and return to him. A simple and most effective practice, which is just to chant the Mahamantra. Now, one may ask that when we chant, how can we be so sure that the Lord will hear and come to our call? Why would he come to protect us? To answer this question, I shall narrate a story of an individual who was considered to be a greatly sinful man. This is the story of Ajamila. Ajamila was raised according to the Vedic regulations. He was a perfectly trained Brahmin, and had a chaste and beautiful wife. But one day, while he was out in the fields collecting flowers for worshipping the Lord, he happened to see a drunken Sudra and a prostitute engaged in an embrace. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that if one contemplates sense objects, he becomes attached to them. Now, although Ajamila was a strict Brahmin, he became helplessly entangled by seeing a man and a woman engaged in such an activity. Consequently, he took this prostitute into his home as a maidservant. Inevitably, he became so entangled that he abandoned his family, wife, and children and went off with her. Due to his illicit connection with the prostitute, he lost all his good qualities. He became a thief, a liar, a drunkard, even a murderer. He completely forgot about his original training as a Brahmin, and his whole life was ruined. Ajamila fell down from this position, and he begot many children through the prostitute. Even towards the end of his life, around the age of 80, he was still begetting children. While he was dying, which was a very fearful time, he began to call out to his youngest child, whose name was Narayana, which is one of the many names of the Lord. At that time, the Yamadutas, the messengers of death, were coming. They were tying up the subtle body of Ajamila and preparing to take him to be punished by Yamaraja, the Lord of Death. At the same time, because he happened to be speaking the holy name of Lord Narayana, the beautiful Vishnudutas, the messengers of Krishna, also arrived there. They checked the activities of the Yamadutas, refusing to allow them to take Ajamila for punishment. The Yamadutas were bewildered. Why are these effulgent and beautiful personalities checking our action? It is our duty to take sinful men to Yamaraja for punishment. Then they are awarded another material body for the next life so that they can get the result of their sinful activity. There was a discussion between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. The conclusion was that although Ajamila was sinful throughout his life and gave up his religious life, he nevertheless was purified from all these sins because at the last moment, he chanted the holy name of Krishna, Narayana. Having thoroughly understood the discussion between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, he became a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He lamented very much for how very sinful he had been, and he condemned himself again and again. Finally, because of his association with the Vishnudutas, Ajamila, his original consciousness aroused, gave up everything and went to Haridwar, where he engaged in devotional service without deviation, always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, the Vishnudutas went there, seated him on a golden throne, and took him away to Vaikuntha Loka. In summary, although the sinful Ajamila meant to call his son the holy name of Lord Narayana, even though chanted with offense, was able to give him liberation. Therefore, one who chants the holy name of the Lord with faith and devotion is certainly exalted. He is protected even in his material conditional life. The verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.2.9 and 10 expresses this moral. Senaha surapo mitraturg brahmaha guru talpagaha stiraja pitra gohanta ye chapataki pare sarvesham apyagavatam idam eva sunishkritam nama vyaharanam vishnur yatastad vishayamatihi. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a Brahmana. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection. Now our question is answered. Even if we chant the name of the Lord unknowingly, the Supreme Lord still hears our call and will definitely come to our protection. Thank you. I will now pass it on to Nidhi, who will carry on this discussion.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vaidehi, for such a beautiful explanation. Now I will continue on this discussion. As she said that even in the worst situations, when we chant Krishna's name and call out to him, he most definitely will heed to our call and come to our protection. It is clearly stated in this beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68. साधवो हृदयं मायं साधुनं हृदयं त्वहं मद अन्यत्ते न जानन्ति नहं तेभ्यो मनंगपि. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them. For instance, the story of Amrish Maharaj explains how Krishna immediately responds to the call of the pure devotees. Amrish Maharaj performed the Mata Bhakti, that is the 9 types of devotional services, which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atmanivedanam. This verse explains it beautifully from Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.18 to 20. Savai mana krishna padaravindayor vachamsi vaikuntha gunanuvarnane karau hare mandiramarjanadishu shrutim cha karakchatasat kathodaya मुकुन्दलिङ्गालय दर्शने तद्वृत्य स्पर्शनीय सङ्गमाम् ग्रहाणं च तत्पदसारुजसौरभे श्रीमातुलस्यारसनां तदर्पिते पादौ हरिक्षेत्रपदानुसर्पणे ऋषिकेशपदाभिवन्दने कामां च दास्येन तु कामकाम्यया यथोत्तमश्लोकजनाश्रया रतिः. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaja Amrisha always in his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleaning the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna and Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura, Vrindavana. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord. 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Amrisha never did anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotion and service, in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. Now I'll narrate a short story of Amrish Maharaj. Amrish Maharaj was a king of Ikshvaku dynasty, in the same dynasty in which Lord Sri Rama later appears. He was just a ruler and his subjects were very happy. Amrish Maharaj was also a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu. Maharaj Amrish used to observe Ekadashi fast very religiously and rigorously. His Ekadashi fasting would begin on the previous evening itself. On the evening prior to Ekadashi, he would take only fruits and milk, fast the whole of the next day, and break his fast, according to the regulation, at the right time in the early morning of Dwadashi, the day following Ekadashi. Now, if the fast is not broken at the proper time of Dwadashi morning, the entire Ekadashi fast is considered invalid. Even Indra, the king of demigods, was shaken with the power of his fast. always anxious about losing his throne to a worthy candidate. An edgy requested sage Durvasa to visit Amrish, hoping that this visit would somehow cause trouble for Amrish Maharaj. Durvasa Muni arrived at Amrish Maharaj's place during the few hours before the break of Ekadashi. The sage came with hundreds of disciples. He informed the king that he and his disciples were heading to the river. They would be back after their regular activities, and he requested Maharaj to arrange the adequate the prasad and all the plans for them. Maharaj Amrisha was in the preparation. He was busy in the preparations. Holding the sage in high regard and well aware of his famous temper, the king gave instructions for the preparation of this sumptuous meal and waited for the sage's return. However, Durvasa Muni was delayed. The sage, who loved to test people, deliberately delayed at the river, knowing that at the time of Dwadashi Pranav was ahead. The time of breaking the fast arrived. Maharaj consulted his royal guru and other priests, and taking their advice, made an offering to the Devas and kept a part aside for Durvasa Muni. He then proceeded to sip a little water as a token of breaking the fast and continued to wait for the sage. Durvasa, on his return, was enraged to find the king had not waited for him, and he was being given just a part of what was already offered to the Devas. In action, Durvasa Muni created Kritya, a fearsome demon, ordering him to slay the king. Kritya charged towards Ambrish to attack him. Ambrish Maharaj, who was absolutely surrendered to the Lord, simply joined his palms and fixing his mind on Lord Srihari and prayed for peace. Srihari invoked his inflammable weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, which instantly destroyed Kritya. The Chakra then started chasing Durvasa. Alarmed and unable to stop it, Durvasa started running. He ran across towns, hills, valleys, but the Chakra relentlessly pursued him. Finally, he approached Indra, who directed him to the creator, Lord Brahma. Brahma pleaded helplessly and sent him to Lord Shiva, who in turn asked him to seek Lord Vishnu's help. Durvasa then ran to Vaikuntha. Bhagwan Sri Hari expressed his helplessness to do anything, saying that he is always under the control of his devotees. And Ambrish Maharaj himself pardoned the sage, the Chakra would not relent. Finally, Durvasa ran back to Ambrish Maharaj for forgiveness. The king, of course, and considered that there was nothing to forgive, and prayed to Sudarshan Chakra to withdraw. Rishi Durvasa learned a lesson that day: never harass the sincere devotees of Sri Krishna. Here it is clearly shown that even with the curse of such a high Brahmin, even the curse could not do anything for the pure devotees of Krishna. As seen from Ambrish Maharaj, an individual who aims to achieve transcendental happiness is uninterested in material achievements and desires. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.25 proves it. Samvardhayanti tatkama swarajya paribhavita durlabhanapi siddhanam mukundam riti pasyata. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Those who are saturated with the transcendental happiness of rendering service to the Supreme Personality of God are uninterested even in the achievements of great mystics, for such achievements do not enhance the transcendental bliss felt by the devotee who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart. Now I'll pass it over to Mangala, who will continue with this discussion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Nidhi, for the wonderful story and explanation. I would like to continue this discussion by talking about the 3 stages of chanting. So the first stage of chanting is Nama Prada, which is chanting with offenses. And this is the level that most people start on when they first take up regular chanting. The 10 kinds of offenses are covered in the next section. If one's chanting remains on this level, he will never understand Krishna properly. Even after thousands of years of chanting, he remains in the material world. The second offense is Namabhasha, chanting as a liberated person. This stage of chanting immediately frees the chanter of all sinful reactions and gives liberation. It has two divisions, Namabhasha and Shraddha Namabhasha. So Namabhasha is if someone chants the holy name accidentally or as a joke in the course of ordinary discussion or negligently. Shraddha Namabhasha, this is when a completely faithful devotee chants on the liberated platform and avoids all the offenses. This is almost on the transcendental platform. Thirdly, Shuddha Nama is a pure chanting in love of God. Shuddha means pure. So this is the perfectional stage. While the devotee fully relishes the nectar of the holy name, Nama, he sees Krishna's form, Rupa, realizes his qualities, Guna, and remembers his pastimes, Leela. Now, before we can attain the second and third stage of chanting, we need to be aware of the offenses we may unknowingly and unintentionally be committing. These are the 10 offenses stated in the Padma Purana that we should avoid in order to attain the stage of offenseless chanting. The first stage of offenseless chanting is blaspheming devotees. That is also known as sadhu ninda. To blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to chanting the holy name of the Lord. A devotee should be like the honeybee that always looks for the nectar and not like the fly that always looks for stool or open sores. One associates with whatever qualities he focuses on, and thus he cultivates those qualities. How to counteract the offense? Just simply humbly approach that devotee, offer obeisances, and ask for forgiveness. The second offense is name of demigods. So the name of demigods are the demigods are subordinates to and dependent on Krishna. Whatever power the demigods have and whatever benedictions they can offer are only because Krishna empowers them and gives them his sanction. A devotee must know that the name of Krishna is absolute and non-different from Krishna himself, whereas the names of the demigods are relative and different from them. How to counteract the offense? Study the scriptural statements regarding the nature of the holy name and Krishna. Take shelter of the holy name and beg for forgiveness. The third offense is orders of the spiritual master. Explicit instructions must be followed. Under circumstances, the spiritual master may deliver advice or suggestions, but leave it up to the disciple to choose what to do. This offense includes having a material conception of the guru or envying him. How to counteract the offense? Humbly approach the guru, offer obeisances, and ask for forgiveness. Fourth offense is blaspheming the Vedic literature, or also known as Shruti Shastra Nindana. To disbelieve the Vedic statements, a devotee should accept that his disbelief may be due to his own limited perception. Even if he doesn't understand, he should still have faith in the Vedas. The fifth offense is considering the glories of the holy name imaginary. To consider these statements exaggerations just to motivate people. To think that devotees have given artificial intelligence to the holy name. The sixth offense is giving some mundane interpretation, or also known as Hari Namni Kalpanam. To think that chanting creates a chemical reaction in the brain and simply produces those europhic effects. The seventh offense is committing sinful activities, also known as Namno Baladyasya hi papi buddhir. To commit sins with the exception of neutralizing the reactions by chanting. Prabhupada often repeated that this is the greatest offense. After taking shelter of the holy name, one should strictly restrain himself from committing sinful acts and activities. Accidental sins don't count. The eighth offense is auspicious ritualistic activities, also known as karma kanda, to equate chanting to other spiritual activities such as meditation, austerity, penance, or sacrifice. One should not try to utilize the holy name for one's personal service. Chanting the holy name is meant for attaining love of God. The ninth offense is instructing a faithless person. To glorify the importance of the holy name or elevated information of Krishna to persons who have no interest, who are not ready to hear, or who may, as a result of hearing, become more antagonistic. The 10th offense is incomplete faith, material attachments. Material attachments to be attached to the misconception of possessing something or to accept the body as oneself while executing the process of spiritual cultivation. We must have a service attitude and let go of the attachments. Having complete faith in the holy name means that you feel the holy name is all you need to be happy or etc. Keeping material attachment means that you still need these things. It is said that those who simply chant the holy name with the tip of the tongue are glorious. One does not even have to chant the holy name and understand the whole procedure, namely the offensive stage, offenseless stage, and pure stage. If the holy name is sounded on the tip of the tongue, that is also sufficient. The verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.7 explains this. Aho bataswa pachato gariyan yachi vagre vartate namatopyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnurarya brahmanu churnama grananti eti. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongue are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. In conclusion, these are the three stages of chanting: chanting with offense, chanting as a liberated person, and chanting in love of God. The example is just like an unripe mango undergoes change. Just like if you taste an unripe mango, it is very sour, but when it is fully ripened, the taste is changed. The taste is now sweet. So in the beginning, we may be very much reluctant in the matter of chanting, but when we become liberated, the chanting will be so sweet that you cannot give up. Just like Rupa Goswami says that, if I had millions of tongues and trillions of ears, then the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra would have been relishable. What can I do with one tongue and 2 ears? So that is liberated stage. That is prerna. That stage is attainable. If you follow the principles regularly, everyone will attain to that stage when he simply likes to chant Hare Krishna. I would like to end this discussion by addressing its most focal point, which is simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vaidehi, Mangla, and Nidhi. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. Others also, you can instead of putting on chat, you can even speak directly, whatever feedback you would like to give.
Okay, then Mataji, I'll just read out what I wrote in the chat. So thank you, Matajis, for bringing Maharaj to the class and blessing us with his priceless teachings and instructions. And thank you so much for reminding us the importance and significance of chanting. It was very well presented and said. So thank you so much for all your efforts.
Just one point I wanted to share. This bhajan is a favorite bhajan of Maharaj, but I don't think Maharaj is the author for that. But it was very nice to hear about Maharaj's history, whatever you shared. I think it's a very old bhajan. I think it's an unknown author, but it's Maharaj really liked this bhajan. And it was very nice, organized effort by all of you. For presenting it very nicely with relevant pictures and related pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam. Though the bhajan was small, you did a very nice, very nice service in presenting it. One other point, the last lines were there, right? Kal aaj bhajan to ab, right?
Kaal bhajan
Aaj bhajan to ab. Yeah. So if you notice that, it is the similar message is in our Atma Prasad Prabhu's that song, right? Whatever is due tomorrow, do it now, don't delay. Now, Maharaj really likes that quality of not procrastinating things, right? To do it immediately. Whatever is due to now, we should try to do it immediately. That was a nice message in that bhajan as well. And in your presentation, you had nicely included Sanskrit verses, or like Sanskrit, the verses in Sanskrit also. So Maharaj really likes that, right? He says, just by seeing the Sanskrit itself is very purifying. So very nice that you included that in the presentation. So thanks to all three of you. Yeah. Abhirkanya Mataji, you want to share some points?
Yeah. No, even I was surprised to see the author as Maharaj. But
Yeah.
otherwise, the presentation was wonderful, and Mangla sang it very well.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, and it was nice.
Yeah, it just shows the love they have for Maharaj. Actually, if you search for the author also, I could see that. I was wondering why they concluded that Maharaj is the author, but when I searched,
Yeah.
in the website,
Even I searched immediately in the Google, and I couldn't get anything. Only Maharaj's source was there.
Yes, Mataji, that was the problem. I spent almost a day trying to find out who was the real author of the bhajan.
Yeah.
And in the link that you sent, it said by Maharaj. So then in the end, we concluded that it was by Maharaj.
Maharaj sang that anyway.
Yeah.
Maharaj loved this bhajan so much. He used to sing so many times. He has sung. No, even in Sharjah, he had sung once. Nice.
Purnima Mataji, would you like to share your points?
Hare Krishna Mataji. It was a very nice effort and presentation by all these three girls. Thank you so much. And it very well connects to the previous presentation that you have given on surrender. So how how by taking shelter of these holy names and Krishna, we can be protected by taking taking the example of Ambarish Maharaj. So very nice. Both sessions are connected, and it was very well presented by the girls. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Mayuri Mataji, are you there? Would you like to share your thoughts? Mayuri Mataji.
It's not there.
I think she is, maybe if she's with the child, she said she'll not be able to speak. So maybe she's busy with the child. Any other points anyone wants to share? Couple of things I wanted to check. How many of you have started Granth service? Like how many of you have started working on it? Those of you who had.
Mataji, we are working on it, Madhurashtakam.
Okay. I saw one offering from Harshita also she shared. Others also I request you please try to start working on it. If you are having schools or exams also, like later once you become free, you please start working on it. And who would like to go in for next week's presentation? I think here now in this batch, Soumya and maybe Soumya said she is available after September 17th because she's having exams. And I think Vishali is pending, right? Like Vishali, I need to check with other girls who are like that. And I think all others are left. Whoever has not done is not in the call right now, I guess. I will wait to hear from the people. Like I think Yashika and Aparna were also saying that they would be able to present, but I need to reconfirm with them. If they are, Vrishali, are you available? Vaidehi, is Vrishali also with you now?
Yes, Mataji, she's here.
Yeah. How are you placed next week for a presentation or?
Her school starts from Monday, but I think she'll be free. She can do for next week.
Krishna, she can try. We will see. I will check with others also. If at all we are not able to form a team, then Krishna willing, we will try to hear Maharaj's lecture next week and discuss the points. And subsequently, I understand that in India also that it's schools are having exams, quarterly exams or something like that, I think. So children might be busy. So if you are busy this week, then Krishna willing, we will try to hear Maharaj's lecture. Otherwise, we'll try to form a team and share a bhajan. Krishna willing, maybe you can, if you have any doubts regarding Granth service also, we can spend some time discussing that also. We will share whatever instructions Maharaj has given us on how to write Granth offerings, the format, the method and all. So we would also try to share something next week. Okay. So any points, anything you want to share, any feedback, anything you want to share, any questions? Thank you. I think Mataji is. Mataji? She joined with it. Harshita, you have something to share?
Oh, nothing, Mataji, just to say. Thank you, though.
Okay. Abhirganya Mataji, you want to say something?
No, I just wanted that the girls also should be interactive. Everyone can speak. Everyone should be little open to speak. Because then only we will like to know each other, and then we will be having some comfortable this thing. Then you can discuss your problems with each other also. Not only spiritual this thing. Even if you have any material problems, you can help each other. So try to make this a interactive forum.
Yeah. It should not be like a formal thing, no?
Yeah, don't think that this is a class and you have just come to take the
do the presentation. Like it's not like your school. It's not.
Yeah, it's not like a school. So we are all friends. Just we can exchange thoughts with each other.
Yeah.
And feel free to talk, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Either in the session live also or in the group also. I don't know. Maybe you are all very good girls, not using WhatsApp, I think. So you're very silent, or I don't know what is the reason. If you're feeling very formal and for that reason you're quiet, please don't consider it that way. You can always freely share your thoughts and freely interact. So looking forward to hear from you all. So
Thank you, Mataji, for giving us that freedom. Thanks a lot. It means a lot.
okay, we will close for the day, and Krishna willing, we'll again meet next week. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.